Hey there! My name is Brandon Howe, and welcome back to my Making a Game series. In the last episode, we set up turn trigger points so that we can have the camera turn and have some different variety to our levels by having things turn around or be on angles and that sort of thing. So going in here and showing that off. I've also did some slight editing of sort of the spacing between these turn triggers that we have set up in our template scene and the enemies that come after them. So yeah, we have a system so we can turn this way, and then when I hit the next one, then we turn down. And I've also readjusted sort of some of the other values with the planets in the distance, because they were kind of getting spawned off screen a little bit, but now they are working fine. So then now we face this other way, and then when we get to this last section, it turns on a weird 45 angle. And this seems to all work nice. And our input's still perfectly fine, and yeah, so we got all of that. So now, in this episode, we're going to be making a level complete system. So yeah, let's get to that. So we said before that we were going to be setting it up so that when we get to the end of the level, we'll need to have passed a certain score threshold to be able to beat the level. For now, right there, I just saw that I got about 490 points. I can probably, if I'm actually trying, doing a bit better. So we'll set that to about 500, I guess, for this level template, I guess. But before we get started on that, there's just, I guess, a few minor things. I made an empty game object called turn triggers and set all these turn triggers that we had set up as a child objects of these, just to be organizationally good. As well, the background, I changed these values a bit just to so that they were not spawning on screen. Same thing with our stars. I had to increase those a bit as well. But yeah, so now one other thing I'd like to do is with our turn enemies, they all start facing the same, or moving left and right the same direction, so they all move uniformly. I'd like to change that just a little bit. And how we are going to do that is going to our enemy turn script and basically adding a public boolean that's going to dictate its starting direction, I guess. So let's do that. So we're going to go public float start right. And actually it's going to be a boolean, so public bool called start right, and then we will set that equal to true to start off. And then in our start function, then we're going to set the direction equal to start right. And then that should do that. So for starters, that won't change anything with our enemies as they currently are. But now we can go in to some of our enemy turns and disable our start right function or variable to have them be moving the other way. So I'm gonna do that on a few enemies. We also want to be careful though with disabling certain enemies or which direction they turn, having them potentially go through each other. So these two enemies might go through each other. So I'm actually going to, I'll select, let's say, this one, and this one, and this one, and then we'll change its direction. And then we'll go to these guys. I'm going to move this forward more, and then I'll move this forward just a little bit, and then this one down that way. And then I can change this one. I'll change this one. Uncheck that box there. And then these guys, I don't think I want to change any of them just so that they're not, because if I do, there definitely will probably be some intersection. Actually, if ones that are beside each other like this, I can change them in the same way. And then I can move this over there. And I could change these guys as well. Actually, but then they might go off screen. So I'll just leave that as is. I'm also just going to move this forward a bit. So yeah, just some simple tweaking there, just to make our enemies look not as uniform. As well, later, eventually, we might potentially redo our enemy spawning system so that instead they spawn with something like an enemy spawner thing. And when we do that, from them just being spawned at different times, their turning will kind of be more random anyways, so that should fix any of those problems later. Anywho, let's get to making a level end thing as we have our level set up right now. So we're going to make a new empty game object called level end, and then we're going to zero that out And then we're going to move it all the way over to the end here. And then we'll make a box collider, and we'll want to make that pretty big. So let's go 25. No chance of missing it, so that would be really bad. Then the player would just go off into infinity. That would really, yeah, not be good. So that works, I guess. I can make that like 2's fine. So now we have this. I'm actually going to just give it some more space between the last enemy and it. So now we're going to want to set up a system for actually completing the level. So again, we could either have a script run on here that runs when it interacts with the player, or a script on the player of when it interacts with the end. I think I'm going to put a script on this level end since there's only one of them, and then this can also then keep track of it can have access to a level complete screen that it'll activate, and it can keep track of the score from the score UI thing, and then determine whether or not the level is beaten or not. So, and in fact, that'll mean that we'll need to make a level complete screen and a level failed screen. Those things. So let's get to that. Actually, I may as well make those first. So we're going to go over to our canvas. We already have our pause screen. I'm actually just going to duplicate that and turn it into our level complete screen, since we'll just be having to move things around and it'll be mostly the same. So level complete screen. Then looking at what that looks like. So first of all, we're going to want to change this to level complete. And then we'll want to make that a lot wider so we can actually see the whole set of text there. 300, that works. And then we can actually probably just change these buttons. Instead of a resume and a level select button, we'll make this one say continue, but then we can also give the player the option to just restart the level if they want to go for a higher score. So then this can just say restart, and then we'll also want to then recolor these because we don't want the button to continue being red. So we can make that yellow, and if actually we do that, we'll probably then want to make these sets of text black. Continue. That works because we also want to be consistent. And then I guess we could make this like green. We could also change these later as well. Actually, no. Now that I think about it, the if that text is yellow, I don't want to make the button also yellow, just to have more variety of colors. So we can go like that cyan color. Continue. All right. That works then. And actually, now that I don't have the yellow, I might be able to make these white again. That does not look good on that cyan. So we'll stick with this. And actually, if I'm going to do that, I might have to then go back to the pause screen, making that consistent, having this have black text too, which should look fine, I believe. So I'll get rid of that. I'm actually going to apply the pause screen thing there. Actually, no, hold up. I want to make sure that this is a different prefab, so I'm going to go unpack prefab completely, and then this I'm going to go and apply it. Cool. And now level complete screen, I'm going to want to go and make that its own prefab. Yeah, and then then we're going to want to set up something for a level failed screen. So we'll actually also want to do something with the score. So we have it up in the top right corner. If we say that the level's failed, we want to show like what the required score was. Eventually we'll make a bar that shows while you're going through the level how close you are to getting the score that you need, but we're going to do that later. Now, right now we want something over here that says like score this out of this. I guess for now we can make that just text. Yes, so actually, on the level complete screen, we can set up a new text. So I'll just duplicate our pause text. It doesn't like me reordering things. Let me go into the prefab to do this, and then go and duplicate this, and then move that under there. Nope, under here. And then this will be called, we'll call it score text. So when we beat the level, we'll actually turn this off and then turn another thing down here on. And then we're going to move that down. Actually, we want this to be at the center of the screen. Yeah, we'll have it smushed in between our two buttons. I think that could hopefully look good. Sort of moving that down. Oh, it's not like... Yeah, I'm not able to see this very well. All right, there. So level complete. Well, we want to change that to the score. So it'll be score, colon, and then like 0 out of 500, we'll just say for now. And that's not updating. Okay, there it is. Probably because I'm just working in this sort of prefab environment. It's not updating in real time. So I'm also just going to make that not bold. So there, we got that. I think I'm going to move this slightly down more. Yeah, just so it's in line better. So we got restart and continue. Score 0 to 500. That is just a temporary value. We'll have the level complete thing actually then fill in what these values are. All right, so then hopefully then this will be even bigger than out of 500 if you've passed the level. And then now we're going to want to duplicate this into making the level failed screen. Actually, no, we don't. We're going to want to give our restart and level select button functionality. Now, level select, that should be the same. Just pause manager.go to scene. Resume should go to... we won't be able to just use go to scene because each level that we're in will have a different name. So instead, we're going to want to make something that then reloads the scene that is currently open. And I guess we'll code that in we'll have like a level complete manager. Actually, I'm just going to call that the game manager because it's going to probably also be something that handles stuff when we first start the level if we need any special things there, and then stuff at the end. So let's actually create that right now. So we're going to go and create a new empty under our managers thing, and then we're going to call that game manager, and then we're going to go and spell it properly first off, and then we're going to go and then create a new script called game manager. And as well, specifically something called game manager gets its own special icon thing, so that's interesting, I guess. So now we're also going to drag and drop that there, going in here, and first off I'm going to make the code for the buttons. So public void restart, and actually I think this will, before I had so continue going to a level select, the go to level select thing, I might actually give this its own go to scene, just because this might be different, because when we call this from the level complete screen, that's when we'll handle like saving and all that. So it'll for now be the same, but eventually then we'll make it different. So public void, I guess we'll call it level complete. Boom. And then, actually no, we'll make public void level complete be the thing that gets called from our level end when we beat the level, and then that'll run code in here. The actual code for the button that'll go back to level select would just be public void level select. Bam. All right, so now restart will load the scene that we're currently in. So in order to do that, we're going to go using Unity engine dot scene management, and then we're going to go scene manager dot load scene. The scene that we're in will be given by scene manager dot get active scene dot name. Cool. And then here it's going to be the same thing, except we're just going to put in the level select as the name, level select. And then for complete screen, we'll leave that blank for now. We're going to code our level end thing first. And actually, I said before that that was going to have keeping track of all the score and all that, but I think instead we'll do it in here. So doing that, let's get our buttons set up now. Waiting for this to compile. This doesn't need any references just yet. So now we're going to, with our resume button, it's actually going to get a reference to our game manager, and then it's going to call our restart function. And then here, same thing, except it's going to call our level select function. like so. Cool. So now I'm going to apply this prefab, and I'm going to disable it, and then we're going to duplicate it to make the level failed screen, which will be more or less the same, except we won't have a button to continue from. Level failed screen. Cool. Yeah, so then here, turning it back on, we'll change it to level failed. And actually, as well, I'm going to make this text red. Oh no. So then also make this red, score, we'll 0, I'll just leave that the same default text there. And then we're going to have, actually this shouldn't, back here this shouldn't be called resume because we renamed it. We'll rename it to what they are. Restart and continue. There. And then in our levels failed, then we'll want these to be, actually you should only be able to restart, I guess. Or I guess you could quit, restart, and then you could quit the level. Restart and quit. So restart then will be the same. Quit, we'll remake the button here. Well, actually this we can just take the pause manager. The pause managers go to scene level select because it'll just go to the level select and it won't save anything, which is what we want. So then we're going to want to make this, we'll make it red again. Back to the quit button it once was. We'll call it quit. Actually, that's a lot of red. I don't really know if I want that. So actually I might go and change these to the same colors, the yellows that they were. Level failed, that. Okay, I'll do that, but I'll make the just the pause text be red, maybe? Nah, we'll just keep it like that for now. So level failed, restart, score that, or quit. As well, I can make this, yeah, we can keep it as is. So now this will be its own prefab. So I'm going to go unpack completely and then drag and drop here. So now we have our level failed, our level complete, our pause screen, and all of that. And also, since I changed this a little bit, I'll apply that. All right, so we got our 3 screens here. Now let's program them into functionality. So we have our level end here. We're going to want to then, we will, deciding how I want to go about this. If all this is actually then doing is just seeing if it touches the player and then calling the game manager's thing, then we could potentially just call it from the player. Just looking at my player scripts here. So, I mean, yeah, we wouldn't really want to do it with player health. I think we will go and do it from the level end. So we're going to create a C# script called level end, because there might be stuff that we do with it later, like we might have an actual object that represents the level end, and we might need some coding on that, so we'll just do this anyway, since we might be using it later anyway. So I'm also going to add that, whoa, why is that not, oh, I doesn't like scripts with spaces in the name, so letting that compile in, adding it to our level end there, and now going in and editing it like so. So now this will need a reference to our game manager. So game manager, whoa, game manager called game manager. Then we're going to set the game manager equals find object of type game manager, like that. And then in our, so void on trigger enter. So if then we collide with the player, so if, whoa, so if we collide with the player, other dot get component player, whoa, what am I doing? Sorry, no, other dot compare tag, the player, then we will call the game manager's lowercase. We will call the game manager's again lowercase it's, what did I call the function? It was level complete. Yes, level complete. And that'll basically be all that this does. I don't think it'll need to destroy itself or stop the player or anything, because we'll probably set the time scale equal to 0. Actually, even then, we don't need to. We can have the player just keep going forward in space, and that could be a kind of cool looking sort of level end screen of them just continuing to go on. Actually, if we do that, then we might actually want to disable the player's movement then in any case. But I think we'll do that from the game manager. We also don't need the update function there, so we can delete that. So now we will go back to our game manager here and then do all of that. So this is going to need a reference to a bunch of things. If we're going to be disabling the player, we're going to need a reference to the player. So let's get that. So public, actually, we don't need a reference just to the player. Actually, yes, we'll need a reference to the game object that is the player, because we're then going to, we'll use .get component to get all the scripts that we need to disable. So public game object player, we'll need a reference to the level complete screen and the level failed screen. So those are going to be game objects that will just activate. So public game object level complete screen, and then a public reference to the level failed screen. Level failed screen. I guess we could make these the same screen just with different numbers, and then rearranging the texts. That might actually be a better case because actually, let me just have a look at this for a second. Well, actually, if we end up making graphics for these, these background panels, we can make a unique one for the level complete than the level failed one that could look all destroyed or broken or something like that. So I think we will have these be different, but the score text, I think I would like that to be the same version. I think we can just do the same thing to it twice, and it'll just depend on which one that we access. That should be fine. So for then, so yeah, we have these, and then we're also then going to, we'll get a reference to which level the score thing that we need, but we'll need a reference to this top one because we're going to want to disable it. So we're going to get a reference to that text, but it'll also be just a game object that we'll disable. Except then we're also going to need a reference to the score, so that means, like, to the score itself, so then we're going to need then get a reference to our score UI script to then get a reference to the score variable. Now it's set to private, so other scripts can't access it. We also don't want it to be in the editor just for organization and all that. It's not something that we want to be meddled with in the editor. So how we can have a middle road is, I'm actually going to go and put this above there, and instead of setting it to private or public, we're going to set it to public, but then in front of it adding in square brackets hide in inspector. So it's basically going to be public but not show up in the inspector, which is what we want. So then we can still access it in other scripts. So we're going to need to get a reference to the score, which means we're going to need a reference to the score UI. So we're also going to want a reference to the score object in general. So we're going to need a public game object score text, or yeah, score text, and then a private, all we are needing to get from the score UI is just that text, or is just the score from it. So we won't actually need to get a reference to the script right away. We can grab that on the fly in the one case when we use it. So we'll go private float. Was it a float or an int? Just keeping the same. It's an int, just keeping the same variable type. So public int score, which will also, it'll start off equaling 0, but we will change it before the first time that we actually use it. Any other things that we need a reference to? Oh, we're also going to want to make sure that once the level's ended, then we can't pause while the level select is up. So we can then do that. We could just disable the pause manager, and that should fix all of that, because all disabling the function will do, this won't run, but these still can run if they're called, I believe. So we're gonna go and do that. Actually, if we disable the, I don't know if there's a difference between if we disable the object versus just disabling the script. I guess just to be safe, we'll disable the script. Yeah, so going over to the game manager here, then getting another reference to, we can make this just be a private reference because we can just use GameObject.find to get it. So a private reference to the pause manager, private pause manager, yeah, then we'll call it pause manager, lowercase. There's probably more things that we could get with just by finding them, just so we have less dragging and dropping, but I think this will be fine. So now we need to get a reference to everything that we need to get a reference to, which we're going to need to get a reference to all of the player's movement related scripts. So going to the player, just so I can see what all of those are, that should just be the player's movement script and their shoot script, and their health should make a difference. So we're going to then want more private references. I'm actually also going to put this under that, and then we're going to get references to the player's move script, player move, calling it player move, and then private player shoot, calling it player shoot. Now, I'm also realizing that because there's only one of these two things, we don't actually then need to get a reference to the player object, I don't think, because we can just use find object of type to get these two scripts, and that should be that. So let's do that for all three of those. So pause manager equals find object of type, pause manager, and then player move equals find object of type, player move, and then player shoot equals find object of type, player shoot. It also decided to give these capitals, so I'm going to remove them just so it's the actual variable name and not the type. So now we have references to all of those. We don't actually need to get this score until the end when we actually use it. So now, and I don't think we'll need to then do anything in our update function. So now in our level complete function that gets called, when our level end gets called, then we're going to want to disable our movement, determine whether we have won the level or not, and then put up the appropriate screen with our score variable in place. So doing that, we'll then call our player move, the lowercase one. I don't know why it wants to keep capitalizing that, but player move dot enabled equals false, player shoot dot enabled whoa, again it's trying to autocorrect on me, but I'm not going to let it, equals false, and then also the pause manager dot enabled equals false. Alright, so, another thing, we're going to need to set up what our actual required score that we need is. So I'm also going to set up that, and I'll have it be the first variable, just so it's at the top of the inspector in our game manager. So public int required score, and I'll set that as a default of 500 just because. So now we need to determine whether or not we've beaten the level. So first we'll get the score from our score text. So score text dot, we're going to want to get our, okay, so score equals score text dot get component score UI dot score, and then we'll want to then set, we're going to then want to disable our score text. So score text dot set active false, and then we will want to finally go into our if statement of determining whether or not we've beaten the level. So if our score is greater than or equal to, if it's greater than or equal to our required score, meaning yes, we've beaten the level, then we will set our level complete screen dot set active true, and then otherwise, else then set level failed screen dot set active true. As well, while I'm doing that, I also want to just make sure that in case we have either of these screens activated when we start the game, just setting both of them equal to false. Kind of like what we did with actually exactly like what we did with our pause screen. So setting those both to false when we start the game, if they're not already. So now as well, then we're going to want to set up that score text right there in our level complete thing. So we're going to then want to get references to them. Actually, I don't think that we do, because we can actually just go here, and I should be able to just separate that out, putting it there. It doesn't want me to do that. Okay, over here, let me try and find this, go into open, then this score text. I guess we'll copy it and then go out of here and then right click the canvas and go paste. So I should go under it. No, it doesn't. Still up there. It does not like me editing this prefab, but I'm trying to do it anyways. So overrides. Is there anything? I'll apply what needs to be applied, and then it might allow me to move. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go and unpack prefab, then take the score text out, and then I can't apply it again. So then I'm going to have to go and delete the prefab. I'm also going to do the same for the level failed. I'll unpack it, delete the score text, and we're going to just have one, but put it in front of both. So then we can just set it once, and then we can just get a reference to it that way. So then we're going to want to then delete both of these because they don't have references to those, so hopefully that won't mess it up. Yes, cool. So now dragging and dropping these again like we want to, and I'm also then going to set that false, and then the score text I guess we'll also make a prefab of, and we'll want to disable all of this when we start off. Boom and boom. All right, so now, okay, now we'll then want to go back to our game manager and go and at the top get a reference to another thing, which is, well, okay, this is score text that's referenced to the one on the score UI, which now that I think about it, actually, okay, so I'm going to make this score text reference be referring to the score text that we are just fiddling with. The score text that was in the upper right corner, we can actually just get a reference to it by just getting a private reference to its score UI, and that way we're not just getting a reference to it on the fly, because that's probably just not a good thing to do. Now, but I still will have a separate thing for the score just to save it, since we'll be using it multiple times. So instead here, we're going to want to make sure that this is also set to false when we start the game, just in case. So score text dot set active false. All right, and then we'll want to go over to our level complete thing, and then at the end of all this, we can do it before, I believe. Yeah, so the score text, this is going to be the one that is in the center of the screen. We're going to set this to true. Instead of going score text.getComponent score UI, we're actually also going to want to get a reference to it in here. I'll do it sort of in the middle of all this. So score UI equals find object of type score UI, since there's only one of them. Okay, so now in here we can go score UI dot game object dot set active false. That'll get rid of the one in the top right of the screen, and then the score here we can just go score UI, since we have a reference to that, lowercase s dot score. Simple as that. And then we have that saved. And actually, if we're doing that and we're only using it there, actually no, we will want to use it as the to set the text in the middle of the screen. So now we're going to want to set that text in the middle of the screen, and in order to do that, we're going to have to add using unityengine.ui to be able to change that text. unityengine.ui to be able to get that text component. So, and since we're doing that, I'm actually also then going to change this game object here to a public text of that score text, and then when we get a reference to it, it'll be score text.gameObject.setActiveFalse, and then here .gameObject.setActiveTrue, and actually right before we set it active, we will change its actual text. So score text dot well, it is the text, so we're going to set it equal to, then in brackets, score, colon, space, then we're going to put the score, plus, then a space, a divide by sign, and another space, plus the required score. And then that should be it, and then a colon there, semicolon. So, and it does not like, score text dot text is how we change that to that string. Cool. So now we got that, setting that to true, setting the score UI in the top right corner to false. And that should be all we have to do there. All right. Now, going back into here, I kind of tried to do a whole bunch of things at once, so there's a good chance that I'm missing something, but we're going to find out. So going to our game manager, setting our temporary required score. I'm actually going to set that really low just so I can definitely hit it for while we're just testing really quick. Dragging in our reference to our level complete screen, dragging in our reference to our level failed screen, and then our score text, which is over here, setting in that reference there. I'm also just going to apply our manager's prefab, just to get all that in there. So now, I also realize I have two things called score text. I'm going to call it level score text and end score text, and I'm actually just going to rename them in the game manager right now, just so that we know which is which. So this is the end score text, and then I'll change all of our references that we have there, and there, and then score UI is the one referring to the top right corner. Waiting a second for that to compile. We also want this to be in front of both of these, so it'll be on top of those panels. Yes, and then did we say disable the pause manager? Yes. Okay, so yes, we did. Now let's go into this and hope that it works. There's a second score text here. We don't want that to be there at all. This level end. Yeah. All right, let's go into this and see if it actually works. If I get errors immediately, that'll happen. Yep, knew it. All right, so what errors have we got? Oh boy. So GameManager.start, it's not getting a reference to something on line 29, which is our end score text. It doesn't have a proper reference to that, even though, I have to, because I renamed it, I'm gonna have to just reassign the reference. Not a problem, hopefully. So now we'll run this again, see if there's any other problems, which there are. Cool, that got rid of one of our errors, but now in here, something else on line 14 is a problem. Our score UI, so private score UI equals find object of type score UI, and it also doesn't, no score exists, so why doesn't it like it? Enemy turn, our enemy turn is now having a problem, where it goes to find, the score UI and then doesn't, because we renamed it. Okay, so actually, yeah, because we renamed it from score text to level score text. So I'm actually also just going to change this anyway to find object of type. Find object of type score UI, which works because, again, there's only one of them. If there was multiple, it would return any of them, I think, which could be a problem. But in this case, we don't need to worry about that. So that then should hopefully work, and it hopefully does. There's no errors immediately. So now we're going to need to get to our end of our level while surviving, getting enough points, which also allows us to quickly look over, our game that we've made. Everything seems to be working quite well as we want it to, hopefully. for now. Yeah, we have this template level just about done, and then we'll be making a level select and all of that. Okay, I've got 200 points, almost to, woo, I've hit 300, what I said that we needed. So now we have also got a power up here. Eventually we'll also add more polish, maybe like a jet system and explosion and then all that. I'm also just gonna, because I really don't want to die right at the end, I'm just gonna hide off to the side here. I'm gonna need to defeat that enemy. Woo. And now please work. Oh, really? Okay. Oh, the level end isn't moving forward, right? Yes, okay. It doesn't have... I'm going to want to do the same thing to it that I did to our level pivots, which... Or our turn triggers. Which... Oh, there's only... Oh, because they all got deleted. Okay, fine. Fair enough. So specifically, I put on a rigid body and an enemy move and... Well, the turn trigger, but I don't need to do that. So here, rigid body... And I'm going to move that up. And then I'm going to drag a 5, disabling all of this stuff there, and then give it an enemy move. And then I'm going to turn it 180 degrees there. I should probably rename some of these scripts since they're kind of not as accurate as to what they are at this point. But I might do that between episodes and then just to, yeah. All right, so as well, I kind of want to just, yeah, I'll, just a way I can quickly test this, that it actually works without having to go through the whole level. So I'll set this to like, whoa, really close to the player. Except the score won't work, but we can test the level failed screen then, I suppose. If one of them works, that's good. So now we go forward. In a minute. I'm being pushed by that level thing. Yes, because I set it to a collide. Oh, I didn't set it to a trigger. Now, maybe it'll work. Please. Okay, level failed. Restart. Then that restarts successfully. Hitting quit goes to our level select. Exactly as we want to. So now I'm also going to cheat a little and set public score 10. Wait. Oh, sorry, that's there. Go to our score UI. I'm just going to actually set this to public and then set a, I'm going to get rid of this line and just quickly set our score to being a lot higher than it actually is. Going to our level score text over here, setting this as a start to 350 out of the 300 I said that we needed to beat the level. Hopefully that'll work. Boom, level complete. Yay, so we can restart. I'm actually going to put the continue button on top, I think. Continue goes back to the level select, but it actually saves properly. So now I'm going to want to undo that just to make sure that there's no problems. So undoing that so that it's 0 again, making this, undoing all that. Going back here, waiting for things to load in again, and then I'm actually going to go to the level complete screen and sort of swap, making the continue button on top as the main button to click, and then the below it, the restart button. So I'm going to swap these. So this has a height of 50, so I'll set it to negative 50. Or this being 50, the other one being negative 80, just so they're opposites of where they once were. Cool. Disabling that override, or applying it to the prefab. Cool. So that, I should also bring back the enemies and then put the level end back to where it was. I'm just going to assume that it hopefully will work over there. And hopefully it does, otherwise that'd be embarrassing. But, actually, put that closer. 190. So, now we kind of have a functional level. So, that'll be it for this episode. Next time, now that we have our level end, we'll make a little level tracker bar thing of how close we are to the end of the level, as well as our score system will make an actual indicator of how much, a percentage of how much of your score you have versus how much you need. And we'll make a bar that sort of fills up with the text over top. And it'll fill up, and then we actually might make it, to do something cool, we can make it transition from red to yellow to green as it goes up. I have an idea of how we can go about doing that pretty easily. Let me readjust this. Alright, so that'll do it for this episode then. Alright, so yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and have a good day.